we don't really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep.
The first step in generating wealth is to pay yourself first.
But now everybody knows.
Stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
There's a lot of different types of HELOC products that are now on the market, some of them geared towards velocity banking, and that's really good news.
This is probably the largest asset you will ever have in your life.
Right.
Here's some direction and some instruction on how to leverage this vehicle so that you can help yourself, help your family, accomplish your goals. We're not educated that way.
We use a strategy to pay off our home in 4 years.
Validation of your retirement account says what you thought was a retirement account is no longer one.
When I tell you, you're going to be shocked to learn. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you. So it starts with pay yourself first today,
Yeah, starting today.
right now. Put your money in somewhere secure. It's about the ability to not lose. I will take base hits all day long versus winning and losing. Somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you leverage OPM, other people's money, to exponentially grow it. That's how you generate wealth.
So whether you're joining us to crush debt or build wealth, time is the most valuable asset.
and we're so grateful that you're spending your time here with us.
Got to keep going.
Hello, get in here. We are going to go over one of the most common questions that we've been recently receiving, and that is, why is this IUL or this policy structure completely different than others, and how does it yield these types of results?
Yeah, and it happens a lot. I mean, this is a consistent theme that I normally get, and it's around, you know what? I think I get it. I think I understand how money grows inside of a product like this. And then it becomes, wait a minute, sounds too good to be true. Man, I'm really skeptical. I tried to explain this to my wife, and her first question was, okay, if this is so great, then why isn't everybody doing it? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't sound like it's even possible. And so the objective is to just kind of slow down. Let's kind of break down, peel back some layers, and build on the last live we did, which I know was a little bit ago, but build on the last live we did, which was what are the factors that will allow a product like this to be able to build and generate supplemental income and grow, exponentially, and kind of peel back the layers and go, okay, now let's step through what a dollar amount being contributed over time would actually do. And I'm going to do several things. I'm going to build a policy or show you a policy built. This is an actual client strategy that I'm using. And this is based off some of the questions that he and his wife actually had. And then I'm going to show you an illustration next to it with the leverage built inside of it. There are some limitations when it comes to adding the leverage to it, but that doesn't matter. There's leverage built inside of it. And then we're going to play with the calculator and see what that even says. And here's the moral of the story. I don't care how you cut it. It's still good. All of the numbers will be different, but all of the numbers will be great. And we'll kind of get into that.
Yeah, if you're new here and you're not sure how this goes, jump in the chat and say hello. This is a great time to ask questions while we're here live, or you can also, I think they can hear me on your mic. You can also go to selfdirected.info.
I can hear me on my mic too. So
You can also go to, where is my mouse? Here we are. Where is it? There it is. selfdirected.info/live, and access the calendar from there as well. And have your own session to ask as many questions as you want, of course. So let's see here. It's been a minute. We're having to get back into the swing of things because it's been so long.
And this is kind of intentional, meaning we didn't plan this. We didn't promote it. We just decided to jump on. And with the understanding that maybe our normal crew might not see us, might not know, and that's okay. Because all we're doing is we're playing with some times, playing with some days, playing with some strategies to see what does and doesn't work. And then we will kind of hone in on what makes sense and be a bit more consistent. But as of right now, we're just kind of testing things. So that's what you're seeing here. But that doesn't change the subject matter. The goal is still to kind of break down some significant and specific content and questions that I get, and help you guys understand. And so I'm ready to jump in if you are.
Yeah, let's jump in. All right, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
The goal should be, where can I achieve exponential growth? Exponential growth.
Let's just get into it. Let's just get
How about sound wise? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we're good.
And do I need to get animated and yell, or is my
No, you're good.
My soft, sexy voice. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think you're good, but maybe the chat can let us know.
All right, perfect. So again, what we wanted to do was just kind of dig, and you might want to get rid of the self-directed.live. So I don't know if that's in a way or not. Actually looks pretty good from right here. So everything kind of starts with what's the goal? Meaning, if you're talking about getting some type of properly designed cash value life insurance policy, when you come around my way, it really starts with why. What's the objective? Because today I did probably a few different types of policies today. I had one where a gentleman just wanted life insurance for his mom. So, mom's kind of up there in age. He just wanted to make sure she had something. So we kind of pulled back from a leveraged IUL or a secure compound interest account and really just focused on, okay, then what does it look like to get a life insurance policy for mom? So my point is, it all kind of starts with what is the objective? What's the goal? Is it to be able to put yourself in a position where you can actually have leverage, be able to contribute to a policy over time, be able to put yourself in a position where you can use the funds to invest in what you want? Is it income? Meaning, hey, as I've contributed to a policy over time, over some period of time, I'm looking to be able to supplement what I think I may need when it comes to retirement, or to put myself in a position to be able to fire my job. Like, it could be many different things, and there's no wrong answer here. But based off the goal, then we pivot to kind of break down how and what that structure should look like. And so today was really about, it's specific to a client that I'm currently working with, and this was the biggest question. How is this possible? I get it. It's a leveraged IUL. I get it that there's a match that's being added to this product, but the question is how? How is this even possible? And if you remember from our last live, there was a few things that we had discussed, and mainly it was around structure, the structure of the policy. But before you get into the structure, it kind of starts here. Meaning, who are you getting this policy from? In a process like this, what's missing is, or what you need is, you may need to make sure you're getting a policy from a mutual life insurance company. Now, there are some select mutual life insurance companies that offer the kind of strategy that we reference, but the bottom line is, it starts with what life insurance company is this coming from? And then who's structuring it? Who's creating it? Who is building this policy? What is this agent focused on? Are they focused on making sure what you have is available? Are they focused on making sure that you're building the best cash value possible? Or are they focused on their commission? So who you get it from matters. And then the last piece is, how is the policy structured? And that's kind of what we kind of built our last live on, is breaking down what that policy structure needs to be. And in this case, it needs to be a max funded. What does that even mean? Option B, what does that mean? Now, whether it's an IUL or a whole life policy, if we're talking about structure, this structure applies to any of them. But when we're specifically talking about a leveraged IUL, which one will allow you to be able to add the leverage to the policy? And that specifically is an IUL. So this is the structure: max funded, option B, IUL, and we have to have the leverage, because it's the leverage that's going to allow your policy to grow exponentially, if that makes sense. And so when I talk about a leveraged IUL, what do I mean specifically? And this is that structure. It is making sure that the dollar amount that you're contributing at some point is going to have an additional dollar amount being matched by the life insurance company. And the contributions that you're placing into your policy is going into what's called the general fund. And that general fund has a 0% floor, which means the amount that you're contributing into this policy will be protected. Matter of fact, there's a contractual guarantee that it cannot be lost due to market risk. And then over time, as that leverage gets added, there's a spread that's created. And that spread is somewhere between, I'll call it 1 to 5% to be specific. And then that dollar amount is then added back into your policy. And that's what you get to leverage and use to be able to invest from, or use as supplemental income, or whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is, this is that structure. But let's again peel the layers back a little bit and get more specific. And this is a short list of some of the questions that I've received over these last few, I'll call it weeks or days, or just in general. One, how is it possible that a strategy like this can even be done? Meaning, if it's so great and wonderful, why haven't I heard about it? And usually when I bring in a spouse, and I don't care if it's the husband or the wife, when I bring in a spouse who has not been on this channel, or has not heard kind of us break down what this strategy looks like, there's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of, you know what? If this is so powerful, why isn't everyone doing it? And when I build a policy, I am limited by what I can show, meaning the policy itself is, I'll call it based on average performance, and it's meant to, I'll call it meant to under promise yet over deliver. And so when you get the illustration, and I'm trying to walk you through how to read the illustration, and you don't see the match involved in the illustration, the question is why? Like, why? Like, now, again, it feeds right back into that. Now I'm skeptical of what this product is. And again, we're going to step through all of that. And then this leverage piece. This leverage is a loan, meaning you are borrowing money from the life insurance policy or life insurance company, rather. You're borrowing money from the life insurance company and adding those dollars back into your policy. So where are these loans coming from? And you told me I don't have to pay them back. How's that even possible? Because if I borrowed money from a bank, I got to pay that back. So if I'm borrowing money from the life insurance company and I'm adding that back into my policy, why is it I don't have to pay it back? So we're going to cover a lot today. We're going to be here a while. So, get yourself something to drink and get comfortable. Hopefully grab you some popcorn or whatever the case may be. And I will dig into all of this for you. And matter of fact, let me set the stage here. I'll bring out my great handwriting so I can do this. See here, give me just a minute. So let's start here. This is a 49-year-old, and they're looking to contribute a 50K lump plus do $1,500 a month. That's the goal. And it's very simple. So if we are talking about structure of this policy, max funded, option B, IUL with leverage. Max funded is saying what is the least amount possible, least amount of life insurance possible we can buy for that 50K and $1,500 a month. What is the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that dollar amount? Option B is saying as I contribute that $1,500 a month, I want make sure my death benefit is continuing to increase. And then again, we're building this inside of an IUL, and then at some point, leverage is going to kick in, meaning we're going to add other people's money to actually generate and create more cash value. So I've already built the illustration, and again, it's a lot of information, but follow me. There's a lot of information on this sheet, and I think these illustrations are kind of meant to confuse. But the truth is, they're actually really easy to understand and figure out how to read. And again, our goal is to identify whether it's max funded, option B, IUL, and does it include the leverage, right? That's the objective. And so, first off, the question is, if I'm putting in $1,500 a month and a lump sum of $50,000, which means in year one, I'm putting in $68,000. I can make this bigger, I guess. I'm putting in $68,000. The question is, am I buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible? And so of that 68,000, that 68,000 is buying me 1.2 million. Is that the least amount possible? The best way to find out is the $68,000, how close is that $68,000 that you're putting into this policy? How close is it to the MEC limit? MEC limit is saying that's the maximum amount you can get into a policy like this without causing the policy to collapse. And so in this document is this little thing called the guideline max. So notice the guideline max is approximately 68,000. So if I'm putting in 68,000 and my guideline max is 68,000, that means this policy is max funded. I'm putting in the maximum amount possible and I'm buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that amount. And in this case, that minimum amount that I'm buying is about, or the minimum amount of life insurance that I'm buying is $1.29 million. So is it max funded? Absolutely. Is it option B? What does that mean? As I contribute over the years, is my death benefit continuing to get bigger? Why does that matter? Well, if my cash value is continuing to get bigger, that means that's more, I'll call it access to leverage that I'm able to use as income or pay bills or invest from. So is the death benefit increasing as I continue to contribute to this policy? Well, if you come over here to the death benefit, you'll notice that each year it started out at, let me go back, started out at 1.29 million. And so by the end of year one, it's 1.358, then 1.4, then 1.45, and so on. Bottom line is As I continue to contribute to this policy, the death benefit continues to get bigger, which means what? Yeah, it's option B. This is obviously an IUL, so we're fine there. And then the question is, what about the leverage? And this is kind of how the question started. It was, one, how is it possible? I'm a bit skeptical. This policy doesn't have the match in it. You told me that this policy was going to have match. And what I tried to explain is, look, I can't illustrate something that hasn't happened. What you're looking at is a baseline policy. When the match kicks in, meaning when the leverage goes into this policy, every number in this document changes. So what that means is, even though you're seeing numbers in this document, right? These numbers mean nothing once the leverage kicks in, because when the leverage kicks in, every number from that point forward changes, which means you need an updated document. So the reason the leverage isn't here is because it hasn't happened yet. And in addition, let's talk about how money grows inside of a policy like this. It's actually illustrated. Well, there's three buckets. The first bucket is this guaranteed bucket. Then there's this alternate scale. And then there's this non-guaranteed bucket. We do not focus on the guaranteed. We do not focus on the non-guaranteed, the alternate scale. Why is that? Well, that is because this guaranteed section is based off, if the market crashed every year, this is how your dollars would perform in this document. What's the likelihood of the market crashing every year? It's not. So there's no point in looking at the guaranteed. The alternate scale is saying, okay, maybe the market didn't crash every year, but what if it crashed every other year? So again, what's the likelihood of that happening? Not. Whereas this non-guaranteed section, the non-guaranteed section is based off what would happen if we use the average performance over time at a lesser rate. Meaning, this is illustrated at, let me find my laser. This is illustrated at about 6.33%. What is the actual performance over time for a product like this? The actual performance somewhere around 6.87 to 7.2. So it's about 0.5% less than what actual performance is. So the bottom line is this illustration is being based off something less than that, meaning it's meant to underpromise, but yet and still overdeliver. So we focused on the non-guaranteed section. And now let's go back here. And get rid of some of this stuff. It's kind of busy. So we are contributing a $50,000 lump sum plus $1,500 a month in year one. And then we're contributing that same $50,000 lump sum plus another $1,500 a month, which equates to 18 grand a year in month two. So these are the two contributions in month one and month two. And then from every year after that, from year three on, the only contribution is 18 grand a year, which is $1,500 a month. So that is the outlay of this, this illustration. So what happens at year three in a strategy like this, as we've discussed many times? What happens in a strategy like this is when you contribute consecutively in year one and year two, starting in year three, the life insurance company adds everything from year three. The life insurance company adds everything from year one into year three, meaning starting in year three, there's leverage that's going to be added of somewhere around 50K so that it meets what you've contributed in total at year three. So again, you've only put in 18 grand, but the life insurance company is going to add 50. So what does it look like when we add leverage into this policy? Well, we've got it. It's in right here. So what happens when we add leverage into this policy, that means the day-to-day or the month, year-to-year performance inside this policy shifts. Meaning in year one, it looks the same. In year two, it looks the same. But starting in year three, when you put in your 18,000, the life insurance company matches whatever that MEC limit was from year one and year two. So you've put in 18,000, but the life insurance company adds an additional 50. So again, you've only put in 18, but the life insurance company's added 50. That is what the leverage looks like. And this continues for some period of time, meaning that $50,000 gets added, and we chose to jump this policy at year 7. It could be sooner, does not have to be here. I just wanted to kind of, I'll call it, illustrate what it looks like when you add leverage every year. Your responsibility from this point, from year 2 on, is just simply your 18 grand every month. I'm sorry, 18 grand every year, $1,500 a month. But the leverage being added Notice how it compounds. Notice how it gets larger at year 10. Notice how it gets larger at year 11. Notice how it gets larger at year, I guess that's year 7, from year 7 to from year 6 to year 7. So this leverage could actually start every odd year if we wanted it to. This is just a high level example of what it looks like when leverage is added to this policy. And that performance of the cash value over time when this leverage added is also shown here. If you were to compare these two policies, and again, I know I'm moving fast. If you were to compare these two policies, the cash flow difference is really not that great. And it's a simple reason why. Here, let me show you what I mean. If you take a look at, let's just say year 5. At year 5, the amount of cash value available after 5 years in the bare bones policy is about $178,690. But in the leverage policy, what is that same dollar amount at year 5? How about $184,364? So again, at the same point in time, one with leverage, one without leverage, the difference is what, 10 grand? I'm going to say that's not that great, but here's why. I legally cannot illustrate something that hasn't happened. So this policy that shows this leverage being added, notice this column here, it says loan balance. This column that is adding the leverage every year, I legally cannot illustrate the amount of leverage being added at more than 0.5%. So what that means is when I add 50,000 at year 3 from year 4, the amount of growth between those two dollar amounts cannot be more than 0.5% of the additional leverage. Meaning I'm not even being illustrated at the actual 6.33%. It's being illustrated as something far less than that. And so because it's being illustrated as something far less than that, these numbers don't look that great. But my point to that is this: it doesn't matter. Because what's the goal? The goal is, hey, do I have a policy that is max funded? Is it option B? Is it an IUL? And can I add leverage to it? The answer is yes. I have the right structure. And because I have the right structure, what that means is as it continues to grow, all of these numbers are going to change. All of these numbers are going to evolve because I have the right structure to be able to produce the dollar amount that's required. What that actual dollar amount will be will change. And now let me show you what I mean. So for that, I want to break down year to year, year by year, how a product like this functions. Meaning, and again, this is quite busy. I'll zoom in and all those kind of fun things. But for those of you who have followed this channel before, you've seen this before. What I want to simply do is just break down how money grows inside of a policy like this year after year.
You want to do half?
Not yet, because I think
Okay.
because I want to be able to zoom in, and I think doing the full board will allow me to zoom in more.
Okay.
And I'm picking a time frame. I'm going to start at 2022. And why am I starting in 2022? It's because if you look at the performance of the S&P 500 over the last, well, since 2022, it looks like this. In 2022, the market crashed. So I want to show you what it looks like when the market crashes inside of a product like this. So again, 2022, the market crashed. But every year after that, it's a pretty good performance. So I'm going to highlight year 2022, 2023, and 2024, and we're going to walk through what that looks like. Obviously, we're not done with 2025 yet, but we're on pace to do some pretty good things, unless, I won't get political. Anyway, in 2022, the market crashed. So let's talk about it. So here we are in 2022. So the thought process is, what would happen if this policy had started in 2022? What does that performance look like? And again, I will zoom in more, but bottom line is, I talk a lot about a bucket. What happens is the money that you're contributing is going into a bucket, and I will zoom into this bucket, but the bottom line is the money you're contributing, in this case, it's a $50,000 lump sum plus $1,500 a month, which is a total of 68 grand going into this bucket. What is this bucket? Like, what does this even mean? This bucket, from my perspective, is the general fund. And I don't care what policy you have. I don't care what policy you have, all, not some, all mutual life insurance companies have a general fund. What that means is the dollar amount you're contributing for any life insurance policy, I don't care if it's a whole life, variable life, universal life, index universal life, it does not matter. Any premium that you put into any mutual life insurance policy is going into the general fund. What is the general fund? In truth, the general fund is like a high yield savings account. General fund is comprised of AAA rated bonds, meaning it's a pretty secure bucket. And when you put a dollar in this bucket is where the 0% floor lives. What that means is when a dollar goes into this bucket, there is a contractual guarantee from the life insurance company that says you can't lose a dime that you put in this bucket. It's a contractual guarantee. It's not a Donnell guarantee. It's a contractual guarantee from the life insurance company we work with that says every time you put a dollar in this bucket, it cannot be lost. Why should you care about that? Well, I don't know about you, but in my age, what I don't have time for is loss. What I don't have time for is for my money to be invested, and then all of a sudden Elon Musk says something stupid, or eggs become $36 a dozen, and now the market tanks, and I've now lost 40% of my retirement or 40% of the money that I've invested. I don't have time for that. I know these young people can recover. I don't have time to recover. So the reason this should matter is if there's a contractual guarantee that says every dollar I put into this bucket is protected by the 0% floor. That's powerful. And in addition, any growth on this dollar amount that I put into this bucket is protected by the same 0% floor. So it's not just what I make it's not just what I contribute that matters. It's also about what I make. What I make on what I've contributed is also protected. Let me put this in perspective. Let's say you've got a 401k with your with the company that you work for. How awesome would it be is if the dollar amount that you were contributing into your company's 401k, there was a guarantee that the money you put in it could not be lost. Like, how awesome would that be? And so from my perspective, what makes this product so powerful is the ability to be able to securely put a dollar in and not be concerned, be able to sleep well at night, knowing that your money's protected. So again, going through this example, it's 2022. We're putting in a $50,000 lump sum plus $1,500 a month into this bucket protected by the 0% floor. This bucket is like a high yield savings account, meaning your money is going to make money in this bucket. And the way an IUL works compared to a whole life policy, an IUL works like this. That growth on the money in this bucket that's protected by the 0% floor, that growth, that gain, that 5% is going to be used to then purchase a one-time call option. So notice what's happening here. We are now introducing risk into this equation. So someone way smarter than me is going to take this 5%, and what's that math? 68,000 times 5% is $3,400. Someone way smarter than me is going to take this $3,400 and buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500. But what happened to the 68,000? Nothing. The 68,000 is protected. So what's being used, what's being taken to then be invested in, have the potential to make more money, is this growth on that 68,000 is being used. And again, it's being used to purchase a one-time call option in the S&P 500 index. What does that even mean? Well, let's talk about it. The S&P 500, what we're basically saying is this. Someone way smarter than me is going to take that 5%, do this, take that 5% and buy a one-time call option. And someone's going to say, hey, I believe the S&P 500 is going to close somewhere around 47.96. Oh, why isn't that showing up? There it is. I believe the S&P 500 is going to close somewhere around 47.96. If it does something better than that, then I get to make money off that dollar. Oh, let me move this over. I get to make money off that dollar amount. So again, someone way smarter than me is going to take that 5% of what I made and say, I believe the S&P 500 is going to close here. If it does, then I make money. But if it doesn't, if for whatever reason in this year that the S&P does not end where I think it's going to end, I don't lose the money that I have in the general fund. I will lose the 5% the 5% that I put in, that I used to buy the call option, I would lose. So again, it's a go, no go. Either I make money or I don't. Either my 5% makes more or it does not. Well, again, what happened in 2022? Well, in 2022, the S&P 500 opened at 4796, but it closed at 3839.50, meaning it lost 20%. I didn't lose 20%. The market lost 20%. So what happened with this call option that we use or that we purchased at in 2022 that we use this 5% growth on our money to do? Well, when we bought this call option and the market crashed, the additional growth that we were supposed to make, and that additional growth is usually somewhere between, I'll call it 1 to 10%, is what we could have made on that call option. But what actually happened? Well, the market crashed. So what actually happened is we didn't get any of that. What we got was a big fat zero. We made nothing in 2022. So because we made nothing, how did 2022 end? It ended with our 68,000 that we've put into this product minus the fees is where it ended. And as of right now, I'm just going to say the fees are zero because it would take too much for me to dig into it. I am sure one of you, maybe two of you, will probably have a question about fees, and we can dig into the fees when I'm done. But my point is, you put in 68 in 2022, you ended 22 with about the same minus the fees. Hard stop. That's the end of year one. So now let's jump into year two. When we start year two, which is now 2023, what does it look like in this bucket? Well, in 2023, I'm going to contribute another $50,000 lump sum, remember? And another $1,500 a month. So I'm going to put another $68,000 into this bucket. But what was already in the bucket? There was already $68,000 from year one sitting in this bucket. And so now that $68,000 plus the $68,000 that I'm contributing into it, that's a total of $136,000 is now sitting in this bucket. Remember, this is that bucket with a what? Oh, I'm gonna do that. I want a yellow. This is what's in this bucket. What's in this bucket is where that 0% floor lives, which means the money put in, the money that was already there, and the money that I'm putting in on top is protected by a 0% floor. It contractually cannot be lost. And these are not my terms. This is the life insurance company saying your money's protected. Well, as I mentioned, the $136,000 sitting in the bucket is going to make about 5%. 5% of $136,000 is about $6,800. Someone way smarter than me is going to take that $6,800 and buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500. So what happens, and again, same strategy. Again, this is not rocket science. We're not doing anything new. This is not a new step or new stage. It's exactly what happened last year. Someone way smarter than me, because remember last year, the market crashed. So someone way smarter than me is going to say, hey, I believe the market is going to close somewhere around 4,000, meaning it's going to do better than it ended in 2022. Well, guess what happened? The market actually closed at 47.69. Don't believe me? Here, I'll show you. What happened in 2023? It opened at 42.83. It closed at 47.69. It made in 2023 24%. So all I'm doing is mirroring what actually happened. So in 2023, I'll do it like that. In 2023, the guy who took the call option, again, it's not me, it's some actuary, some very smart guy, way smarter than me, took that 5% and said, I believe the market's going to close here. It actually closed here. So the market, the S&P 500 actually made 24%. One of you might say, wait a minute, if the market made 24%, why wasn't I able to participate in the whole 24% performance? Well, actually, we could have structured this so that you could. But understand what that means. If you're going to participate in the 24% performance, you are also going to participate in the what is that? I think it was minus 24%. Let me write it here. You also participate in the minus 24% performance of 2022. So the reason we have a cap And the reason we have a floor is so that we don't participate in any losses. Remember, like I mentioned, in my age, my goal is to make sure my money is not lost. The main objective for me is for my money to make its own money with an inability to lose the money that I've made. So because I'm not participating in the loss of the market during that time, the amount that I can participate in as far as if the market does well is capped at 10%. So again, using the numbers, I got $6,800 that I'm then being used as 5% being used to buy this call option. If the call option does well, which it did, what am I getting 10% on? Am I only making 10% on the money that was used to buy the call option? Let's do that math. 10% on the money used to buy the call option is 680 bucks. So did I go through all of this to simply make $680? The answer is no. This 10% is actually based on everything in the general fund. So this 10% is based off, what was that total in the general fund? How about 136,000? So what that means is I'm now going to make, what color I want to use? I'll use green. I'm now going to make 10% on 136K. Yeah, 136K. So what's 10% of 136,000? How about 13.6K is what is now going back into this bucket. So what that means is, and I know it's busy, is what it is.
So busy.
I know it. I know you over there freaking out too.
Yeah, I hate it.
We'll get over it. So that 13.6 thousand is now going into this bucket. And again, every dollar that goes into this bucket is protected by what? The 0% floor. So once I make this $13.6 thousand based off how the market performed, what happens at the end of year 2? Well, at the end of year 2, my 136,000 made 10%, which means my 136,000 plus that 13.6 equates to 149,006 at the end of year 2, at the end of 2023, minus fees. Again, I went from 136, I didn't make money in year 1, to 149, almost 150,000 at the end of year 2. And now things get crazy because now we're headed into year 3. Year 3 is where that leverage comes into play. Year 3, what that means is not only is my money working for me, but in addition, the life insurance company is going to add a match. And it has many names. It could be the index loan. Some people might call it a match. It is absolutely leverage. Some might call it a participating loan. I don't care what you call it. The moral of the story is we are going to borrow money from the life insurance company, and that borrowed dollar amount is going back into your policy. One of the questions that I get often is, but where is this borrowed dollar amount coming from? It's coming from the money you've already put in the general fund, meaning the life insurance company is going to use your contributions as collateral. So if you've already contributed 149,000 into this bucket, and you're about to contribute an additional $1,500 a month, which equates to $18,000. So again, there was already 149.6 sitting in it. And then you're going to add an additional 18. The life insurance company is using this as collateral. And they're saying, hey, because you have 150,000, you absolutely can borrow 50 of that. And they're going to write you a brand new check for $50,000 to be added into this policy for you. So in total, you have $2 amounts working for you. You have what was sitting in the general fund plus your year 3 contribution, which is a total of 167.6. And you have the life insurance company that provided you an index loan, a participating loan, a match. Bottom line, it's a borrowed dollar amount from the life insurance company. And I did say borrow. Borrow implies there's a cost. And most of the time when you borrow money from anywhere, that cost includes both principal and interest, right? If I'm borrowing $50,000, I don't just owe $50,000. I owe the principal that I borrowed and I owe the interest that I borrowed. Here's the thing about that. You actually do not owe principal and interest. What you actually owe, because there is a cost to borrow, you only owe interest. Why? Because here's the principle. Think about it. This $50,000 that you're borrowing from the life insurance company in the form of a participating loan, where is it? Can you touch it? Can you physically put your hands on the money you just borrowed from the life insurance company? Can't. The $50,000 you just borrowed is sitting where? In this bucket. What do we know about this bucket? We know this bucket is where the 0% floor lives. What do we know about the 0% floor? That means there's a contractual guarantee that the money in this bucket cannot be lost due to market risk. Meaning, if we're borrowing $50,000 from the life insurance company and we take that $50,000, I'm sorry, sweet. I know I'm all over the place with you. Here, let me
Like this is a
I'm sorry.
this is a sport for them to like follow along with this
sorry.
writing too.
Uh,
Can you guys read this? Can you let us know in the chat?
Your handwriting horrible. Here's what you do. You watch it the first time, then you watch it a second time, and by that third time, it'll start to kick in. Here's the piece that I just want to make sure is clear. That $50,000 that you're borrowing is not in your pocket. You cannot go to an ATM. You can't withdraw it. You can't use it to buy a car. You physically don't have it. So if you physically don't have it, then what is it you actually owe? Because they already have their principal back. Because it's sitting in the general fund, which is protected by the 0% floor. So what you owe in this process is the interest. And that's it. You only owe interest in this process. Go ahead. Okay. Thought you were having fun chasing me.
Well, sometimes.
All right. So let's go over to the half. All right. So, moral of the story is the money you've put into this bucket and the money that has grown from the money in this bucket, along with the money that you're borrowing from the life insurance company in this bucket, is all protected by the 0% floor. And now what is that process? The process doesn't change. 5% on what you've contributed and 5% on the money that you've borrowed, both of those dollar amounts are now going to be taken to purchase a one-time call option in the S&P 500. And again, what does that look like? If we're looking at 2023, what happened in 2023? Well, someone way smarter than me said, hey, my 5% on the money that I've contributed and the 5% that the life insurance company has allowed me to borrow, that call option on that S&P 500 index is going to close somewhere around 5,000. Well, where did it actually close? Closed at about 58.81, which means the S&P 500 made 23%. But what did I make? I made 10%. I made 10% on every dollar in the general fund. And now I get to apply that 10% to the money in the general fund. Mine is pretty simple. My dollar amount, I'll make that smaller. My dollar amount, let's do it there. My 10% is pretty simple. It goes right into this bucket on top of the money that I've contributed. Not a problem, pretty simple. But that dollar amount that I borrowed from the life insurance company, it's not the same. That dollar amount I borrowed from the life insurance company, there is I'll call it a cost of doing business. Meaning I owe interest back on the $50,000 that I borrowed. So if I make 10% and I owe the life insurance company a cost of doing business, what is that cost? That cost is 5%. I'll make this bigger so you can see it. That cost is 5%. So again, if I made 10%, but it cost me 5% to use the life insurance company's money, what's left for me is 5%. So once the life insurance company receives the interest that I owe on the money that's being borrowed, that difference comes to me. So what does that mean at the end of the year? At the end of the year, at the end of year 3 rather, at the end of year 3, a bit smaller. At the end of year 3, my $167,000 made 10% on my money, and it made 5% on the money that I was borrowing. Again, my 167.6 that was sitting in that bucket made 10% on all of my money, and it made 5% on the leverage dollar amount, which was $50,000. So it's 167.6 plus 1676 plus another 2,500 bucks equates to 186,860 bucks minus fees. Moral of the story is, for years 22, 23, and 24, I did make money, I made money, I made money. And in year 3, I made money on someone else's dime. I leveraged money from the life insurance company, and I made an additional $2,500 on that borrowed money. And that is just year 3. Every year after that, this leverage dollar amount continues to get larger. It continues to exponentially get bigger, which means that's even more than I'm able to then take at that same point. So what does this look like over time? What does this look like after approximately, let's call it, by age 65? What does it look like inside of a leveraged IUL by the age of 65? And I want to answer that first by saying, what does it look like in, let's see, oh, you don't have, aren't you? I'm sorry. What does it look like inside of just a regular IUL? And I know you can't see it, I will zoom in, but I just want to highlight where 65 is. 65 is down here. So what does the cash value look like in a regular IUL with no leverage by the age of 65? And I'll make it bigger. I just wanted to highlight where 65 was. It's right here. So that's saying in just a regular IUL with no leverage, you would have cash value of somewhere around $629,000. Awesome. But what does it look like at that same period of time? Again, age 65, inside of an IUL with leverage. Well, inside of an IUL with leverage, I'm showing 698. What did I say about this other illustration with leverage? I can only illustrate this. This policy with leverage in it at 0.5% growth. So it doesn't show what the actual performance is over time if we actually are using 7%, 10%, or whatever those dollar amounts are. But let's be clear, is it more than a regular IUL? Okay, 629, again, just simple math, 629,000 compared to 698,000, which is better. So clearly, a leveraged IUL or adding leverage to your policy will allow you to grow more. But I still don't think this does it justice. What would it look like if we were to dump those same dollars into, you remember the calculator I used to use, right? What would it look like if we dumped those same dollars into the calculator? This is at 65 years of age. Remember the calculator I used to use where, hey, it shows how much leverage is actually being used over that period of time. This is the same dollar amount at age 65. We're talking about 771,000. So 698 compared to 771. Okay, that's getting closer, but notice, this is still based off an illustrated rate of 6.3%. That's nowhere close to actual. The actual is about 7.2. My point, it's still good. I don't care how you cut it. But let me show you one more thing. And sweetheart, let me jump over to the calculator if you don't mind.
Yep, you got it.
So what does this look like if we were to just use a different calculator? And I don't think I can make this larger. I can try.
I can.
No, hold on, let me see. Okay.
I can zoom in.
There we go. I just did. So what does this look like? Again, this is the same thought process. If I was at age 49, oh, I didn't want to do that. Here, and let me do that, and let me go back. All right, at age 49 till age 65, contributing 50,000 year 1, 50,000 year 2, plus $1,500 a month, which is 18 grand a year. If I was to contribute that over the same period of time, notice 68 year 1, 68 year 2, and what happens at year 3? At year 3, $50,000 gets added, and all I'm doing, this is even a different version of everything else that I've shown you. This isn't even saying that I'm increasing the amount of leverage every odd year. No. What if I only filled the space to make this policy $68,000 every year going forward? So I'm only adding $50,000 a year every year. So again, this is just another cut, another version of what this could look like. These are all guesstimates. These are all estimates.
So what you're saying though is that these are options that you can do when you're applying a strategy versus just an out of the box, this is what you get.
Exactly. It does not have to be cookie cutter. Here's my point though. How much cash value do you have based on that dollar amount? How about 787,000? So 787, 776, 698. Doesn't matter. The moral of the story is your money's making money, and it's making money faster. It's growing more efficiently, rather, than what a traditional IUL would do without leverage, than a traditional whole life would do without leverage, than a traditional 401k, than a traditional IRA, than a traditional universal life or variable life. The moral of the story is when you are able to add leverage to your policy, it puts your money in a position so that it can outperform, outgrow just about anything else out there. And the piece that I love about this is, and your money's secure. And your money is protected. And it's not protected by me. It's the life insurance company saying, we will protect every dollar you put into this product and make sure that regardless of what the market does, your money will still continue to grow. So there's a lot more that I can dig into and go down, but I think I want to pause it there. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any. Otherwise, I do want to stop here and just simply state, this is really about these factors. Let me get rid of this. It's who you get this policy from. What life insurance? Oh, let me bring it down. Sorry. Who you get this policy from? What life insurance? What life insurance company? Who is the agent that is building this structure? Is this agent focused on you and your growth, or is this agent focused on him and his commission? And then obviously policy structure. And that policy structure highlights some key areas. Is this policy max funded? Is it option B? Is it an IUL? And are you allowed to put leverage in it? If you can check these 4 boxes, you have a pretty solid policy. And whether it's growing at leverage every year, we're jumping the policy every year, or we're not jumping the policy every year. The moral of the story is your policy is outperforming anything else you can put in front of me. I'll leave it at that. Any questions, sweetheart?
We do have one question, and it's from John Moore.
Hey, John.
John was asking this earlier, and I thought maybe, I don't know if he's still with us, but
Yeah, I know.
I'll try to pull it up. Hold
Okay.
on. Here we go. John says, so where did the other 50K come from? And I think he was originally asking about like the
At year 3, right?
I don't know, but I think some people may have that question when you're talking about filling in the difference, where that 50K comes from. If they tuned in late and they didn't understand where you were getting that from, and what leverage actually means, maybe you want to just.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me do some things. Let me do some housekeeping here real quick. I think good on that. All right. So, believe we might be frozen.
Oh no. Can you even touch the home button? Does that? Are we restarting?
Nope. There we go.
Nope. We're not on yet. Got to connect. Sorry, guys. You know us with the tech issues. Golly. All right.
And I think regardless, though, I can still answer the question.
Okay.
So if you want to take the vibe board off, and I can just answer the question from here.
Okay.
So where did the $50,000 come from? So you have to remember what was being contributed to. What was being contributed to initially? What was being contributed to was in year 1, we put in a $50,000 lump sum plus $1,500 a month. That $50,000 lump sum plus the $1,500 a month equates to 68 grand in total for year 1. So in year 1, put in 68,000. In year 2, put in the same 68,000, meaning it's a second lump sum of $50,000 plus an additional $1,500 a month. The $1,500 a month is the ongoing contribution. So that's the normal contribution that's going to be contributed through the life of this policy. So the moral of the story is they're putting in a $100,000 lump sum spread between 24 months, 50,000 year one, 50,000 year two. Well, starting in year three, they are only putting in 18,000. But for a maxed funded policy, they always have room for 68. They're only putting in 18, but there's room for 68. How are we going to fill that room for 68,000? Well, this is where the agreement that we have with the life insurance company says this. As long as you've contributed to your policy consistently for years 1 and year 2, everything you put in year 1 can be added to year 3. Let me say it again. The agreement that we have with the life insurance company is this. Because you've contributed consecutively to your policy for year 1 and year 2, everything that we've contributed in year 1 can be added to year 3. So if you've already put in 18,000, then there's an opportunity to add an additional 50,000 based off the room that's available. Again, you've got 18,000 that you're already putting in. There's room for 50,000 available. That 18,000 plus 50 gives you the total 68. So the life insurance company says, hey, if you want to borrow everything from year 1, you don't have to fill out a loan form. You don't have to qualify for it. It doesn't matter what your DTI is. It doesn't matter what your credit score is. It's not something that you have to qualify for. The agreement is because you've contributed in year 1 and year 2, starting in year 3, we can take that 50,000 or whatever dollar amount we have at year 3, we can take that dollar amount and add it right back into your policy. And as long as we're not mecking the policy, as long as we're not putting in more than what's available as far as room, we're fine. So again, how much room is available at year 3? If I've put in 18, there's always room for 68. So there's room for an additional 50. We're borrowing that 50,000 from the life insurance company, and that 50,000 is now being added as brand new principal. And the cool part about that is we can do that every year. Every year there's available space for us to be able to contribute that $50,000 on top of our 68,000. And one other luxury is, as we move through this policy, we could even do what's called jump the policy. What that means is if we've been contributing this 68,000 total, 18,000 from me, 50,000 from the life insurance company, if we've been contributing this 68,000 total, there's an opportunity to potentially jump this policy, which means increase that MEC limit from the original 68,000 to double that amount. Because we've been consistently contributing to this policy, all we're doing is meeting the same obligation that we met to start with. And what was that obligation? The life insurance company says if you contribute to your policy consecutively in year 1 and year 2, then starting in year 3, everything you put in year 1 can be added. Well, in year 5, that means I contributed consecutively year 3 and year 4. Year 7, that means I contributed consecutively year 5 and year 6. Year 9, that means I contributed consecutively year 7, year 8. So what that means is every time I've met that obligation, I have the ability to continue to increase and grow the amount of room that I have in this policy, which means that's more and more leverage that's able to be added. So again, the moral of the story is the life insurance company allows me this space based off using what I've contributed as collateral. So where did the $50,000 come from? It came from my ability to contribute consecutively, and I'm borrowing $50,000 from the life insurance company. The life insurance company is writing me a brand new check for that $50,000. It is not coming from anywhere other than the life insurance company. And when I get it, that means I owe the life insurance company $50,000 plus interest. No, I don't. That $50,000, remember, goes into the general fund. So I don't owe the life insurance company $50,000. They already have it. But there is a cost to doing business. And that cost to doing business happens to be that interest rate of 5%. So because they already have the $50,000, once I make the because they already have the $50,000, once I make that 5% based off the call option and the growth inside the policy, I've now satisfied both the principal and interest of that loan, which makes it self-collateralized. And once it's self-collateralized, I get to borrow it again and again and again. A lot of words.
Okay, we have a question. We're not going to get the vibe board back, but we do
Fine.
have some questions you can answer.
Okay.
Gabo's here.
What's up, Gabo?
Hey, Gabo. And he says, oop. Hey, fam, question. Every jump means a new 7-year pay test, right? So if so, does cash value within the policy starts a new surrender charge in the whole amount?
So you use the word 7-year. I'm not sure what you mean by 7-year, but every jump does start a new, I'll call it, every time you add new principal to the policy, it increases everything in the policy, meaning let's talk fees, premium charge, expense charge, cost of insurance. Every time you add new principal, that's a new expense charge, new premium charge, new cost of insurance. Absolutely. And in addition, does the new amount that added have a new surrender time frame? Absolutely it does. But here's the key. If I'm adding leverage to my policy, what ends up happening is it's the leverage that's paying for all of those fees. It's the leverage that's covering that surrender charge. All of my money is working for me. So even though that's the case, it has no impact on the growth inside my policy. I'm very curious as to what you mean by the a new 7-year pay test. I think what you're talking about is TAMRA 7. And so does the leverage being added increase the MEC limit? Absolutely it does. And if it increases the MEC limit, if it changes the MEC limit, then it also changes the TAMRA 7, I think is what you're saying. And so that would be absolutely the case. So I believe what you're saying by the 7-year pay test is the 7-year TAMRA 7 is what it's called, I think is what you mean.
Yeah, and can you explain why? Like, that's a really great question, actually, to understand and to be prepared for.
So there's a few, I'll call it scare tactics that people like to use when they build cash value life insurance policies. One of them is, hey, don't make your policy. Because if you make your policy will cancel. But here's the truth. If you are structuring this properly, you can't make your policy. The whole objective should be to put as much in your policy up to that MEC limit without going over. But let's say you still wanted to get an extra dollar amount in your policy. Well, all mutual life insurance companies structure things the same way. And there's this TAMRA 7 pay, which ultimately what that means is within a 7-year period, there is an additional amount that you would be able to contribute, even though it's more than your MEC. So as long as you don't exceed your TAMRA 7, which means as long as you don't exceed whatever this dollar amount is over that 7-year time frame, then you're fine. Well, to Gabo's point, if you are jumping the policy, that means you are increasing the MEC limit, which means the TAMRA 7 is starting over, which means you now have a new limit to reach, which also means there's a new additional dollar amount that you're able to contribute if you wanted to contribute beyond the MEC limit. And if you're doing that every odd year, then you're never coming anywhere close to the TAMRA because that TAMRA changes every time additional leverage is being added. So again, this is a pretty powerful strategy for those who are trying to get as much income or much cash value as possible into their policy because there's so many levers that you can pull to be able to do so. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, it was a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle says, let's bring Michelle up. Would like to know when I can retire. Is it possible to leverage $200K from a 401k currently at age 63?
Mm-hmm. You use the word leverage. When I hear leverage, I hear borrow. So is it possible to borrow money from a 401k to use inside of a cash value life insurance policy? It is possible to borrow money from a 401k, but how much are you able to borrow? The amount that you could borrow would be 50% of what's in it up to 50,000. If you and your spouse are part of that 401k, that's times 2. So of your 200,000, if you put in 100,000 into a 401k, your husband put in 100,000 into that same 401k, and this 401k that you have is a self-directed 401k. Again, a lot of layers here. Then that means that you both can borrow 50% of what's in it up to 50,000, which means you'd be able to take that $100,000 that you're able to borrow, and I did say borrow, and you would be able to contribute that into a policy and get it compounding. Let's erase that whiteboard. if you're saying, hey, can I leverage the 200,000 in my 401k and put it into a policy? The short answer to that question is no. But if I'm not mistaken, you did say you are at retirement age, 63 years of age, which means that 401k is yours. And so could you withdraw 200,000 from that 401k, take the tax hit on that withdrawal from that 401k, and take that remaining dollar amount and dump it into a policy? You absolutely can. Let me answer a question you didn't ask. What about being 63? Is that too late? It's not. The key is doing the math around whether or not it mathematically makes sense to take these actions. And so, can you do it is one thing. Should you do it is a whole nother conversation. And I think so. What I would suggest is we just sit down and kind of talk through your specific situation, because I can give you all sorts of scenarios where you can accomplish a goal like this. But I don't know that it mathematically makes sense because of the tax implications involved and what you would actually be doing to yourself. Maybe there's another approach. Maybe there's an and approach, meaning instead of depleting the 200,000 in the 401k, is there an and type opportunity to still allow your 401k to grow and make its own money while also adding a certain dollar amount to a product like this to be able to work alongside? Maybe there's more of an and discussion.
Yeah, I'll put the calendar link up here so that everybody can have that as well.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Welcome. Okay, we have another question from Zaid.
What's up, Zaid?
Hey,
Long time
Zaid.
no see.
I know, right? Zaid says, are we able to increase our premium amount? Hold on. Are we able to increase our premium amount throughout the year, or must we wait for the anniversary date of the policy?
So, are we able to increase the amount that we're contributing throughout the year? If I'm building this for you, I'm intentionally building it to make sure it's max funded, meaning what you're contributing for the year is the absolute max. But there is an opportunity to contribute up to the TAMR. So let's use real numbers. If you're putting in 20 grand a year, I built this policy so that you can put in $20,000 a year. But let's say TAMR might be 36,000. So that means in addition to the 20,000 that you're putting in, there may be room for an additional 16 grand. Again, we'd have to do the math to see. But my point is there will be room for an additional dollar amount. So that dollar amount can be added. And can you spread that additional $16,000 out over the full year? Can you put 6 in this quarter and 6 in this quarter and 6 in another? Absolutely, you can. So there would be an opportunity to spread that dollar amount over time. I think the key piece is we don't, well, I won't say we won't. There may be a reason for us to build room into your policy, meaning instead of me building it to be max funded, instead of me building it so that you cannot put more than $20,000 a year in, maybe you are saying, can you build it for the 36,000? I can, which means you can put in your 20, but there's room for an additional 16,000 if you want to put it in. But what happens if you don't put that 16 in? If your policy is now underfunded, what does that mean? Well, if your policy is underfunded, when it comes time for us to do our jump at year 3, because you haven't met the criteria, which was fully funded your policy year 1, fully funded your policy for year 2, at year 3, instead of us being able to jump the policy, the most we would be able to do is fill whatever room's available with leverage. So it impacts the strategy. It doesn't impact, like, you're not going to lose your policy. You're not going to all of a sudden lose your life insurance. It's not that at all. It does impact the strategy if your policy is not fully funded. So a lot of words. Hopefully I answered that question.
Okay. I wanted to see if I could if I could come in. I have a this is yeah, this is the this is kind of the place where a lot of people get to when they're trying to strategize and gain confidence with these strategies, right? They want to imagine what kind of results or how they should structure this for their family, especially people who are building a family bank. Like, that's a different strategy. But when you're talking about someone who's um, uh, maybe 60 plus, that this could mean that their strategy might need to change, or when we're talking about what can you leverage, who could also become part of that. And that's where I think some of the most creative strategies have been tied to the goal. Goal could be income. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to only be done one way. And that's what I really appreciate about what you did here today, is you showed you can structure this in many different ways and it will yield a different result. But what would happen? Today was 49 years old, right? The example was, what would happen if you would have done the same sort of policy, but with someone who was half this age? Yeah, someone half this age, the premium amount would be lower. Can you talk to them about why and how this could have looked completely different if the cost of insurance were lower?
So, how about this? This example was done on a 49-year-old, but the full picture is the husband is the one who reached out to me. He's, I want to say, in his early 60s. And he wanted to know, would it make more sense to do this exact same policy, a 50,000 lump sum, $1,500 a month? Would it make more sense to do the policy on him at age 61, 62, or on his wife who's 49? So we did a side by side. Which one mathematically makes the most sense? And the truth is, someone who's 61 or 62 compared to someone who's 49, the only difference is the age. And that age impacts what? Fees, the cost of insurance. So the only difference between the two, they're both healthy. They both, there's no, I'll call it significant or impactful medical history between the two. The only difference is age, okay, and gender. But it just mathematically made more sense to do this exact policy on a 49-year-old compared to 61-year-old, just simply because the cost, there was less cost in the policy. So if you were to take someone half the age of the 49-year-old and do the exact same, obviously these numbers are going to be extremely different. Why? Cost of insurance is lower, and now I have the luxury of time. I have the ability to build more, grow more over time. The jumps inside of this policy would have been more frequent. So there's all sorts of pieces here that would make this better, but absolutely, you're right. And so to the question before, for the lady who mentioned being 63, this is where insurable interest comes into play.
Right.
Does it make sense to do a policy on you? Or would it make sense to do a policy on a child of yours? And I know child sounds weird because if you're 63, your child's probably 35, 36, maybe even 40.
But they're always our children.
I get it. I just struggle with it, And so, would it make more sense to do a policy on them? And you guys collectively work together to understand why this is being done. Like me as 61, 62, because the fees inside of my policy would be so much greater than my son or my daughter who's in their mid 30s. We're going to do the policy on my son or daughter in their mid 30s. Why? So that I can build maximum amount of cash value so that I can leverage it in my 60s or in my late 60s to be able to sustain my retirement. And now how do we turn this into a win-win? Well, when I am done using it, meaning, God forbid, if I was no longer here, I'm 80 plus years old and I've been leveraging this policy for the last 20 years. God forbid I'm no longer here. This policy now gets handed off to my son or my daughter who gets to continue this income and continue to fund it, which would put them in a position to fire their job. It would put your son or daughter in a position to where maybe they don't have to work for the rest of their life. Maybe they don't have to worry about what retirement looks like because now they have a vehicle that they can leverage and use well into retirement. So it can become a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, if we're really looking at what life would be in 20 years from now, and we're considering that we have this option to hand over a sizable amount of tax-free income per year, or the alternative is that they get this lump sum, right? What are they going to do with that? Well, hold on. You get the lump sum, and then what do you do with it? Okay, that's one question, right? Because there's going to be people who will go, well, why wouldn't you just, right? Isn't it better to have X compound interest is where this really thrives, because by the time the policy would be handed over, and it's not really handed over because it's on them, right? They're the leverage. By the time this happens, a compound cycle is where your money doubles one time. So by the time it's that size, doubling again is far more significant than doubling whatever it is that you're maybe going to lump sum they're going to have to divvy up, right? If you have more multiple kids, being able to hand them a machine that will continue to compound is really what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So, you know, using the scenario where the 63-year-old does a policy on the 30-something-year-old and you allow this to build. In truth, this policy should probably be sitting in a trust. And so now the beneficiary of this policy is the trust. The distributor of income is the trust. And maybe to start, that distribution of income is solely going to the 63-year-old who started it. Why? The whole purpose for doing this was for income. It's for the living part of life insurance, not the death part of life insurance, right? And so the objective is to use it for supplemental income. And so now you're doing that. Well, once you continue, there's two things. One, you may be in a position to where you don't have to put another dime into this policy. It will continue to compound on its own because of the growth that's already happening in it. Which means if mom or dad was the one originally using or receiving this distribution of income, now it just transitions to whoever the new trustee of this trust is at the time, who will more than likely be the kids who kind of move into that spot. But then again, God forbid, whoever the life insurance policy was on, if something happens to them, that death benefit, that million+ death benefit, will just roll back into the trust to do what? It's the role of the trust to now buy policies on the grands, the great grands, and all of the legacy of the people coming after them. So this continues because this policy was not just about this individual. This policy was about generating, building wealth, but also using or leveraging their policy to be able to purchase policies on other people in the family. So now it just becomes this, to your point, machine that it does two things. One, it buys policies as people are born, and that's starting at age 14 days old. And then as people pass, the trust absorbs those policies and just distributes income from there.
We have more questions. Michelle says, can I withdraw? She has the no spouse involved. So what can she do right now with this 401k age 63?
So depending on who because the 401k may be with a current employer, the 401k may be with a previous employer. So I'll give you both. If the 401, well, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm answering my own question. If the 401k is with a current employer, because you're at retirement age, that's actually your retirement account. So you can do what you choose to do with it. So you would have the ability, again, I'm going to put some things on you that maybe don't exist, but these are the options. If you're savvy enough, you may know how to grow that 401k better than where it is today. Or better yet, you may have the opportunity to put those 401k dollars in a position so that they're more secure. What do I mean? Well, because that 401k is yours, you could actually move those 401k dollars to a self-directed 401k. You're able to do that because you're at retirement age. You can do what's called an in-service transfer, meaning you're going to move those qualified dollars from the 401k that they're in with the employer that they're with and move them into your own self-directed 401k that you would create for yourself in your own business. So now those 401k dollars are sitting in a checking account ready to take action. So what could you do with those 401k dollars sitting in your own self-directed 401k? How about anything you want? You can buy land, you can buy REITs, you can buy syndications, you can buy subject twos, you can buy water rights, you can buy gold, you can buy silver. How about crypto? So it kind of is dependent upon the role that you want to play in this process. So what can you do? Pretty much anything. Your 401k with $200,000 in it could buy an apartment complex. And that apartment complex can now be a part of your retirement portfolio. And the sole purpose and role of that apartment complex is to replenish your retirement. That's the sole purpose. You are acting on behalf of your 401k, so your 401k owns it. and any income generated stays within it. But ultimately, you have that option. Could you then use some of those dollars to start a secure compound interest account, start a leveraged IUL, use it personally to pay off debt or assist in paying off your home? You can do all of those things. Um, I'd say the world is kind of open to you once you get those 401k dollars in a position to where you have more control over them. Um,
Yeah, far more control.
yeah, and that's whether you have a 401k with a current employer, again, because you're at retirement age, you have this capability, or even if it's with a previous employer, you still have that same option to do a qualified to qualified transfer into your own self-directed 401k. Now, there's a few more boxes that would be required to be checked, but what can you do, or can you do it? You absolutely can.
Okay, we have another question.
Okay.
Is MPI in Canada? It's a two-part question.
Want me to answer that one first?
Yeah.
MPI is absolutely in the continental, I won't be continental, in the US only, with the exception of one state. Can anyone guess the state that you are not allowed to do a strategy like MPI in? It's a very weird state. Can anyone guess that state? So of the 50 states, the only state that you cannot do a strategy like this in is New York. So no, not in Canada. I've had a lot of conversations with people from both Canada and a few across the pond. Um, I enjoy having these conversations with my Canada people because I am curious as to why you can't do it. So you can absolutely get a life insurance policy. You can absolutely get a cash value life insurance policy in Canada.
Mm.
I laid out the structure. It's max funded. I don't know what you call that in Canada, but what I'm saying is we need to purchase the least amount of life insurance legally possible. So call it what you want. Use whatever term you want. I want to purchase as little life insurance as possible for the amount that I'm putting in. So that's the structure. The next one is option B. As I'm contributing into this policy, I want my death benefit to continue to increase as I contribute to this policy. I don't care if it's an IUL or a whole life policy, none of that matters. I want a policy that also gives me some security. When I put $1 in this life insurance policy, I want the life insurance company to guarantee that the money I put in it can't be lost. And in addition, any growth on the money that is in this policy, I want the same guarantee applied to that. Does that policy exist in Canada? Of course it does. So you can get a max funded policy, you can get an option B policy, and you can get a policy that gives you a guarantee that you can't lose money. The last piece, leverage. Can you get a policy? Can you get a policy in Canada that allows you to put leverage back into the policy? And notice what I said. I didn't say go borrow money from a bank. I'm saying there needs to be some structure around if in year one you contributed, nothing happens. In year two, you contribute, nothing happens. But starting in year three, would the life insurance company allow you to leverage everything from year one, put it in as brand new principal? They are using your year one and year two as collateral. And because you're borrowing from the life insurance company, it's going into the same spot where you asked for that guarantee that money can't be lost. Then what is the risk to the life insurance company to allow you to do that? So to me, if you're in Canada, I'm not no different than I had to explain to Bank of America why they actually offer a first position home equity line of credit. You might have to go explain to your life insurance provider why this is something they can do. They just never thought about it.
And that's what I was just about to say is, does strategy exist in Canada? Like, strategy exists everywhere. You just have to be creative and go find where your leverage is and how to be able to apply it. Because the next part of his question is, how low are you maintaining your mortgage for the purposes of leverage? Are you stretching a $10,000 mortgage over 20 years? Like, what does that look like? And if he's in Canada, again, these are strategies, right? And so being able to leverage the free.
Mm-hmm.
We teach them right here for free. There's no course to buy. There's no consultation or coaching to purchase. It's just strategy. Everybody, we grow farther and faster when we grow together, and we fully believe that. And so that's why the strategy part is the most important part that you understand and that you grab onto, because you can literally do it anywhere. You just have to be able to understand where your leverage is and what vehicles you have access to. So I love that you're asking this question and finding a way that you can utilize this to level up uh upstate, up above us, right?
Right. Well, isn't that the 51st state?
Oh my gosh, Gabo was in here. Rob and Gabo are in here. By the way, just clowning around. I'll tell you what they said. But yeah, Gabo said that if US attached Canada as our 51st state, then MPI will be available.
There you go.
Hey.
That's all it takes. This would be the incentive as to why Canada should become the 51st state. But here's the thing. Let me erase the word mortgage, though. Let's erase the word mortgage. And let's replace the word mortgage with home equity line of credit, because I believe that's what you mean. And again, I've talked with a lot of people from Canada, and this absolutely exists. Now, there's some, I don't know the full story, but there's some weird strategy around how and when a mortgage refinances. Like you don't get a 30-year mortgage, if I'm not mistaken, in Canada. You get some type of term related. But still, can you use the equity in that home to be able to replace whatever that is? And absolutely you can, because this is just a strategy. And this is where, if you understand the strategy, can you educate the banks around you to apply something that they don't understand? But that doesn't mean it can't happen. Because again, we're just talking about a line of credit that you're using to pay off the mortgage. Maybe it requires you to have way more equity than maybe necessary in the States to be able to do it, but that wasn't the question. The question is, can you? I think there is absolutely some opportunity there to be able to happen, for that to be able to happen. And I am open to having those discussions. I would love to be a part of a part of the team that trailblazes this in other spaces outside of America. And let's be clear. The use of a first position HELOC started in Australia. So this is not an American thing. We did what Americans do. We stole it.
Wow.
Did I did I say something?
I don't know. I don't have a sound for that. Like what I need, yeah.
But I mean, my point is, this is what the strategies I'm sharing with you. I didn't create any of them, right? I didn't create velocity banking. I didn't create infinite banking.
Right. Yeah.
MPI is not new. MPI is a strategy built off premium financing. Premium financing isn't not new, is it not? Premium financing isn't new. Premium financing is built off Roth. Like none of this stuff is new. It's just that maybe I didn't know about it because one, maybe I don't have the capital to be able to float in those spaces, or it's been intentionally gate kept from me. It's been intentionally used for people who make way more than me or way more prestigious than I am. Like none of that is right. And our job, our objective is, once we get the information, we give it. That's the goal.
Yeah. We're all leveling up. Get in here with us and do it too. We had another question, I know. Okay. Here we go. So Rapid, that's a great question. Here's why I wanted to bring that up, even though people are like, why is he answering a question about Canada? It's because whether you are in a different place or whether you have maybe a different profile, maybe your credit sucks, maybe you don't have access to as much leverage as somebody else would. Does it mean that these strategies wouldn't work for you? No, it just means that you might have to be structured a little bit differently, whether if it's to start or you might have to take a couple extra steps to get yourself in a structure that makes sense. But I mean, where we started and where we are right now, we know that it's possible. If it's possible for us, it's possible for anyone. It's just the information. We lack the access to this information. We didn't even know that it was possible to be able to apply it. That was the biggest key for us. So we know that access to the information alone, then you learn, what does this do? How does it work? How does it function? And then you go, wow, now that I see that, I can see how this could work inside of another vehicle that I have access to, or this other concept over here. And now it's just a snowball effect, right?
If we don't do anything else, we have to identify where our leverage is located. And in most cases, our highest amount or largest form or largest amount of leverage is located in the home that we live in. if we can at least understand how to do what the bank is already doing. What do you think the bank is doing with your home? They're lending every dollar you pay to your mortgage, they're lending it right back to you at a different interest rate, and they're getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. Why can't you do the same? So at a minimum, it's understanding where your leverage is located, whether that's a previous employer retirement account, current employer's retirement account, cash value life insurance policy, a 401k, IRA, 403b, TSP, government 457 plan, your home. It doesn't matter what it is. It's, do you understand how to leverage it? And if not, let's talk about it, because maybe there's some things that I can connect you to so that you can. And again, I'm not looking to, hopefully what I also don't come across as is only do this. This is the only answer.
Right.
What I can share with you is what we do. What I can share with you is the strategies that we have implemented. But I'm not sharing with you everything because I don't know everything. And it isn't only do this. It's why not do it all? Why not become the bank? Why not become the life insurance company? Why not become the financial institution? And why not do everything that they do to be able to generate and build wealth? They don't just do one thing. So why can't we do it all? Why can't all of these strategies work together to be able to build and produce the supplemental income that we need? That's the objective.
Well, and we've we've done their plan for decades. We've done their plan.
Right.
Like the 401k and the IRA, they've had their opportunity to improve these products, to improve these strategies, and the only thing that they've improved are the people who are working on Wall Street. They never lose, even if you do. They don't get their commissions taken back because the market crashed.
Yeah.
They don't get penalized if they've made some bad decisions, right? None of that wagers on their income. It really doesn't. In addition, the majority of people who are feeding into Wall Street with these 401ks for these managers who manage the funds, they had to go into debt to be able to qualify for the incomes that they're using to feed into these programs. If you want to talk about doing the one thing, right? Here's what you should do. This is what's been taught to us for decades now. They've had their time to prove that it's work. In the very beginning, they said, you want $1 million in your account so that you could have enough income in the future. You'll need this income. It's still $1 million because still nobody's achieving that.
Right.
In 2025. And they've had this for multiple decades. So why is the goalpost still the same, and still a small sliver percentage of people are able to obtain it? Meanwhile, we've had access to do these strategies, access to these other vehicles forever. And because we didn't have access to the information, we couldn't opt in, right? That's really it.
Well, and spoiler alert, the IRA, 401k, 403b, TSP, government 457 plan, they were never designed to produce income. That's not why they exist. Pensions were designed to produce income.
Yeah, right.
Pensions don't exist anymore. These other vehicles came after that. These other vehicles were meant to supplement that. They were never designed to be the vehicle that we use for income and retirement. They're designed to accumulate net worth. It's no different than a mortgage accumulating equity. They're designed to accumulate net worth, but you can't spend net worth. You have to translate that net worth to income. And so when you go to translate that net worth to income, you learn you can't use as much as you thought you could. I'm a millionaire. I've got $1 million for the 1% of maybe 2% of individuals who have $1 million in their retirement account. Awesome. That translates to $40,000 a year. So if you don't have $1 million, imagine what that income is going to look like. The average, I want to say that average dollar amount is somewhere around 250,000. The average American, matter of fact, I think that's what the lady that shared the $200,000 at 63 years of age, that's the average dollar amount
Right.
that
Correct.
most people have inside their retirement.
Correct.
When you sit down with Edward Jones or Vanguard or Fidelity or whoever your financial advisor might be, and they tell you, hey, congratulations, you got that $250,000. That translates to what, $8,000 a year in income? It's unacceptable. 100%
Exactly.
unacceptable.
So we have another question.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
what's the minimum age your child could do this?
Great.
John wants to know.
Yep. So the minimum is once they have a social security number. So 14 days. So I have yet to do a 14 day old. I think the youngest I've done was 6 months. But yeah, once they have a social security number, that is the absolute earliest you can start.
Well, you know, other people who have done
Oh, yeah.
policies on their kids at 14 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, John, it's very common, especially in wealthy families.
Why aren't you on the screen? Like, why are you hiding?
Why don't you just come over here since since we don't have the vibe board anymore?
Let's do it. Is there a transition or you just want me to get up?
Oh, wait, hold on. All right, here we go.
You know I won't make it in time regardless.
No, I can't find. Okay, here we go. All right.
Then I'll knock
You
something
got it
over.
right.
Right. Then I'll knock something over.
Let me move this. Okay, we have a couple more questions, so that's good. Let me put this up here.
All right.
Okay, way better. It picks up a lot of room noise, and I wish we could change something about that. Okay, so he said minimum age. We did that already. If you have questions, we're kind of at the end of time here, but get them in if you have some questions, because we'd love to answer them while we're here. By the way, you have to read this comment because he had me dying in the chat.
I'm glad I swallowed my drink because it may have ended up all over the place. Rob be going in on me, man. Golly. I met Rob's mom today.
Stop it.
I met Rob's mom today.
Wow. Golly, Rob. We got the whole fam now, right?
Met his
Yeah,
mom
we
today.
get to meet the whole fam. That's kind of an honor. It's pretty dope. We get to do that with a lot of different families. Remember when we had Peaky's mom in the chat?
Right.
And his dad?
Right.
Brought his dad to the chat? What? If you're bringing your paps to the chat, to the meeting?
Somewhat
up.
sophisticated pappy.
Yeah. Bring your sophisticated pappy. We're down with that. Okay.
Yeah.
He said impolitely borrowed. Colleen, by the way, she was saying she's here and I wanted to say hello. We hadn't seen her in a while. And she said she'd be scheduling an appointment. So I leave that link up here. And that way, anybody else who wants to, you can do that. All consultations, all appointments are free, whether you've had 1 or 10. Right, Rob? 1 or 50.
What voice was that you were about to use? Consultation. It sounded medical for a minute there.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to get it out. Consultations. Okay, we do have another question though.
Let's do it. I've got nothing to do.
And Zaid, to answer your question really quick, we will be back doing weekly streams. This is our plan. We just have had to get some systems in place, restructure, deal with some tech stuff that was going on, and like get help for all of that. And we just didn't have the capacity to do it in like this timely fashion. So,
and what we didn't want to do is use the live stream to test all of that stuff out.
Yeah, that's not a vibe.
Yeah, it made more sense to just do it when it felt right, or do it when it was right. And that's kind of why we didn't schedule this. Like whether it's 2 people or 3,600 people, I don't know what it is, and it doesn't matter. The objective was, hey, let's get on here, let's see what it looks like, let's play around with what the day is, and is there a topic that makes sense? And this is a topic. Today's topic is just one of the consistent themes that we've been hearing. So we'll absolutely be back on more of a consistent schedule, but we just wanted to work some things out first.
Yes. Yes. And make sure that we're always showing up to provide as much value as possible for you guys too.
I wanted to make sure I'm looking like somebody sophisticated pappy, you know?
You're always looking like somebody sophisticated pappy.
Dude, now that's the next t-shirt, sophisticated pappy. Like, come on, man.
Oh gosh. Okay. Ken says, welcome, Ken, by the way. Ken. Yeah, we love to see you in the chat. Can you use a self-directed 401k to invest in a group which invest in large apartment projects?
100%. They're called syndications all day long. You can do it with your eyes closed. Matter of fact, our favorite money is mailbox money. This is the best way to invest passively. And how about this? I'll throw one more at you. I'll give you a quick example, and I'm only giving you this because we've done it. Let's say you got $100,000 in your self-directed 401k, and you want to invest all $100,000 into this opportunity. So you do it. You write a check from that 401k and boom, you invest. But before you do it, you realize, wait a minute. If I invest this $100,000 into this apartment complex, any of the growth, any of the return is going to come back into the 401k. I won't get any of it. Man, it would be nice if I could use some of the growth on these dollars to be able to pay a bill or open up a secure compound interest account. Well, here's the cool part about you being the controller of this self-directed 401k. What if you take this 401k and you borrow 50% of that 100,000? So you're going to borrow $50,000 from yourself. You got to fill out a promissory note and say, hey, I agree to charge myself 5% on this $50,000 that I'm borrowing from myself. Done. So now your 401k has 50,000 and you personally have 50,000. Remember that 100,000 you're going to invest into that apartment complex opportunity? Now you're going to invest 50,000 from your 401k, 50,000 from you personally. Now both $50,000, 100,000 total is buying this apartment complex, and let's say that return is 25%. Just making up a number. Well, 25% on 50,000 comes back into your 401k. Doing awesome. But guess where that other 25% comes back to? Comes back to you. Remember, you charge yourself 5%. So, okay, you send 5% over to your 401k doing what you said you were going to do, but you get to keep 20. You just made 20% on $50,000 for doing absolutely nothing but filling out some paperwork. What could you use that 20% that you made off that $50,000 to do? About anything you want. Pay a bill, buy a car, take a trip, do infinite banking, open up a secure compound interest account, reinvest. Like there's so many different things that you can do. And it's all because you made a decision or you took an action, or it's not rocket science. Like you didn't have to go to some class or have some degree, become a, what do you call it? What are those investors call? Not certified investor.
Accredited.
Accredited. You didn't have to be accredited to do none of this. This was all because you had information and you were able to structure things in a certain way that you could take advantage of it. Like how awesome is that?
Yeah, the fact that there's just flexibility out there and it's available to the majority of people and they just don't know it. They're sitting on assets that they could be leveraging or restructuring in a different way. And that's the coolest part about all of this. It's super powerful. Not just because you get to learn to do something different. For us, we did not want to do anything different.
Right.
We thought we would just jump into real estate because that sounded like, Carlton Sheets, Than Merrill, HGTV, everybody was doing it, right?
But it's not, it's even bigger than that. It's because we had no other choice. Like, tell me what the other options are. Like, unless you're going to invest in your previous employer's retirement account, I'm sorry, not previous, unless you're going to invest in your company's retirement plan and go all in your company's retirement.
Or like learn stocks.
Right. Like, what are the other options? But, and you've heard the what is the saying? More millionaires have been made through real estate than anything else.
Right.
So everyone assumes that the only way I can make supplemental income that's going to actually do something is real estate. Like we've been conditioned to believe real estate is the only way.
Yeah. And if you've ever been to one of those real estate conferences,
Crush it.
man, they're hype. Okay. And they've got the AC down really low. If you know, you know, right? And everybody there is so hyper and friendly. And there's so many success stories of like wholesaling, how much money people are making. And you think to yourself, you're looking at your partner and you're like, we can do this.
Right.
It's a lot of information. We feel very confused, but it's not that we can do it. We better do this. Right.
What are the choices?
Yeah, we better do this. And we were like, okay, we've took lots of notes. Then we were just like, no, we don't want to do this. And
it wasn't that simple. Like I went to the on the site visits, and I visited the fix and flip, and I was with the guy who was flipping the property, and we had to kick out the crackhead who kicked in the back door and ran and jumped over the wall.
Yeah, no judgment.
I was there, like I've done it. And when people hear that I'm an engineer, they go, "Oh yeah, we're putting this addition onto this home, and we need to pull this wire. What is the gauge of wire that?" I don't care about gauge of wired
Don't ask me.
and I don't have 3 degrees in architecture and design, so
Yeah, but I do.
I
But
don't
I still didn't want to do it.
I don't care about what the cabinets look like or whether the countertop is granite or not. No, I want dollars and cents. Like that's not fun to me.
I wanted time with my family. That's what I saw. All these flippers, they did not have time with their family. They did not have time freedom. They're always like financial freedom. Where is it? Because you are tracking these projects like down to the penny, or you may lose everything. One bad roof, you took the wall apart, and all of a sudden, whoop, whoop,
Asbestos.
there went your profits. Like, I don't want to play F around and find out with my future. I didn't want to do that. And so there was just, for us, it was far too much risk. And for the learning curve around it, it was the risk for us. That's a lot of people do a great job, and I love that for them. When we learned about mailbox money, we learned that there were people who were buying land and flipping it, doing nothing. They had all kinds of different business models or investment systems that were just, here's the money and they're going to give you money back, and you don't have to learn the industry. You're just a silent investor. That sounded more our speed, and that's why we love the opportunity to be flexible.
Man, I think she's just trying to be politically correct because I'm lazy. I do not
Well, it
want
was a nice way of saying
I
that.
do not want to put on somebody's hard hat and go knock down walls. That does not sound like I would much rather be up here looking like somebody's sophisticated daddy.
Oh, I prefer that too.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, I'm just being honest. And so, because I think the people who do this and do this well, like they are amazing. Like this is what they were supposed to be doing.
They're clearly not looking so like sophisticated,
No, I'm saying
polished
there
up
are, there are
to you.
people like when I was walking these properties, I was walking with some pretty talented individuals who made great income off of products, off of opportunities like this. So the people who do it and they do it well. It's just not for me.
Yeah, Michelle said it right there. No tenants, no toilets, no trash.
You know?
Yeah, not for us. Okay, we did have another question though.
Okay.
I thought.
Okay.
So it was Ken. He was saying, can you use a self-directed to invest in a group which invests in large apartment projects?
100%.
Here's the cool part about this, because this is how we invest in self-storage and apartment complexes, right? Like we've done a couple of those. The idea that you get to just like tag along like a fly on the wall. You don't have to attend any meetings. You don't have to go through any paperwork. You don't have to see any of the paperwork. You don't have to do any of the math. My favorite part. You just get a return on your investment, and you get to learn along the way. Like the majority of these syndicates, especially the ones that we have worked with, they are highly educational. Like they have an interest in educating their investors, especially if their investors want to know. So you get the packets, you get the information, like you understand what's going on to whatever extent you want to be involved. You could pretty much shadow them. I mean, the majority of them, they're into that. They want to have meetings
Absolutely.
and talk about the deals.
They want to
We just
educate
don't.
you. Yeah.
We just don't want to show up to those meetings.
Again,
Yeah.
I would much rather be somebody sophisticated, Pappy. I mean, come on. I'm just being honest. And it started out fun until you hit that Arizona heat. Like it was a good time in the fall.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
walking into somebody's property that's been closed up for the last 6 months in July during monsoon season, like
Oh yeah. And they're always doing tours like, oh, let's go on these property tours.
no,
And then the fridge is like
no.
not had electricity for a while. And somebody in the tour is going to open it just because that makes it fun. That makes it fun. And you have to be there still because you're on the tour. One of the things that I really do appreciate is just the fact that somebody can be really good at this. Somebody like Adam, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Adam's really good at what he does.
There's a lot of people who work with that are really
Yeah,
good at this.
super
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And we love that they love to do this. Like they could have their own TV show on HGTV or TLC or someplace. They could show people how to do this for a living. The problem is people don't want to learn how to do this really. They go to these big conferences and they think that they want to get all this education to learn how to do it themselves, only to realize, can I just give you the money and you do it? And that's what they should be doing. And so we know quite a few people who will just do all of the work and you get to chill and sit back on the sidelines. And that's for us an amazing opportunity because they're already in the throes of it. There's no risk there for you. They know the decisions to make, and you can do that with your retirement funds. Better than them sitting in a market that you have no control over. The more you know. Okay, I think that's it for questions. Let me just hear what you're saying. Almost went down a rabbit hole. Answer not for me. Oh, maybe we missed something.
We good?
Okay, Gabo says, is there a way to self-collateralize the money invested within a self-directed 401k to get? Oh, wait, let me put it up. To get a loan similar to loans from cash value in an IUL without selling the assets? Is there a way to borrow from your self-directed 401k? Yeah? Without selling the assets? Well, if there's money spent on assets, then it's not in your 401k, right?
So, because you know me, we got to take it all piece by piece. So, is there a way to self-collateralize the money invested? So, what does self-collateralize mean? It just means that whoever the institution is that the loan came from, they have their principal and interest back. That's all self-collateralized means, because once you have it back, let me use an example. You go to a bank to borrow money to buy a car. Say you borrow $50,000. That $50,000 is at an interest rate to be paid over 60 months, right? You borrow the $50,000 to buy the car. If in year one you pay back the $50,000 plus the interest, the loan has just become self-collateralized. Well, if I paid it all back in year one, I filled out an application and I got approved for a loan, not for just 1 year. I got a loan for 60 months, for 5 years, which means that 5-year contract is still in play. But if I pay back everything in year one, the loan is now self-collateralized. All that means is I now have access to $50,000 again. So can you do that in a self-directed 401k? If I borrowed $50,000 and I charged myself 5%, and I told myself in the promissory note that I filled out for myself that I was going to pay back this $50,000 at 5% over the next 5 years, 60 months, and I pay back that $50,000 because the opportunity that I invested it in returned that $50,000 back to me. If I return that $50,000 back to my 401k, does it become plus interest? Does it become self-collateralized? Absolutely. And does that mean I can borrow it again?
Oh,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
So I think everything that you're referencing is absolutely a part of the process of being able to borrow against your 401k. Is it similar to a cash value life insurance? I think it's the opposite. I think the cash value life insurance approach is similar to what happens inside of a 401k. I think is what's actually, but no. Trying to answer your question is yes, without selling the asset. Absolutely.
All right. Hope
Great
that
question.
answered your question.
It's an interesting question. A great one.
Colleen says, I miss you guys. It's almost 11 p.m. and I'm laughing out loud. It's been, we've been trying to behave ourselves on here. Just for the replay viewers, when they're not here, I don't know if it's funny. If you have to be here.
Sophisticated.
Yeah. We're trying to behave
will that
ourselves.
play as well on the replay?
So, but we appreciate you being here, and it's great to see some faces that we haven't seen for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the tea. We're trying to decide what day is the best day.
We are playing around with a lot of days.
I think Donnell is a fan of Mondays because I've been wanting to try to do a Tuesday, and we just keep jumping out here on a Monday. I don't know what you have against Tuesdays, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
Tacos.
Wow. And on that note, we're just going to go ahead. You win because I guess, no, we can have tacos.
That messed her up, didn't it?
Yeah. How about this? Everybody grabs their tacos. They could bring them to the stream.
I like that.
Tuesdays is kind of, I feel like it would be a better day, but we would really love to hear from you guys. What do you think what day of the week is the best day for us to do our weekly thing? I think it's better to hear from you. That way we're not trying to make you guys all fit around our schedule, right? What day is best? Just put it in the comments, whether you're a replay viewer or not, or send us a message. We don't care how you get it to us. But I want to try next week on Tuesday just to see who's available and if that's different.
You see what she did there? So
Oh, because you did it first about Monday this week. That's why.
So it doesn't become a discussion. We're already going live on Tuesday now. Because she just said that, now we have to go live on Tuesday. So there's not even a discussion to be had.
Winning.
See what you did there. See what you did.
So, see, Gabo already likes Tuesdays. See, winner, got to vote.
All right.
Yep, one for Tuesdays.
Tuesday it is. Next week will be on Tuesday.
Yes, definitely on Tuesday, because the only reason why we're on Monday this week is because he publicly stated it and we couldn't retract it. So there's that. We're married in real life on YouTube all the time. We're also extremely grateful for your time. And of course, we want to be able to provide the most value. And so we've gone through and kind of, what is it that we can cover over this next season of planning? I think the majority of people should be. Are you at least moving the needle on your 2025 goals? If not, how can we help you get there? I think that's probably the pretty important question. We always ask, what is the goal and how can we help you achieve it? If you haven't, then we will start spinning the wheel again to give out boats if we need to inspire some folks to get their goals down. If you haven't, then let us know. Maybe we'll do a Zoom call where we can all kind of do more of a group collaboration. We had done those before on Saturdays. Saturday sessions is what we called them. And we let you guys pick the topic. So we are also open to doing those and bringing those up again too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was really fun. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for those who are able to tune into this very impromptu live stream, but we hope that you learned something and that this cleared up some confusion around why this IUL is completely different.
Right.
If you joined us late, then you scrub back. That's what we talked about. So a deep dive into how to read a policy and how to see the differences in what that looks like. So that's what we have. You have any last words? Any last words?
Let's go eat.
Okay. We like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. Oh, I got to get this comment off of here. There we go. To do that, we have a ton of free resources. And so we hope that you will take advantage of them and that you'll come back and meet us back here next Tuesday. If you haven't subscribed, please do, so that you'll hit the bell so you'll get the notification, let you know that we've gone live. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
self-directed.